skills. So the fourth block is from Unit 12 to Unit 19. We'll talk about the first two units properly, and then it's all about the computer and all. So I'm sure, first of all of you know how to, kind of handle and manage a computer, how to use all the apps. But I'll just scroll through and you can see what things are there. Now, the first unit of this block, Unit 12, it's about skill set for merchandising. So we have talked about who is a merchandiser, what is the meaning of merchandise, it is a product or a commodity, what is the process of merchandising, and all these things. Now, there are many, qualities that a merchandiser should have. So that's something that carries forward the whole merchandising process. Those qualities of the merchandiser, the good qualities, I would say. And there are other skill sets for merchandising that a merchandiser, that he or she should have in, him or her. So we'll talk about those skill sets. First of all, if you see, any merchandiser has three broad categories of work. Okay, so we are talking about the merchandising process. So the first one is what to buy. As we have already said, that it's an interface between, the buyer and the exporter. So, or we can also say, right from the, beginning of the product to the end of that, the finishing or the production of that product, whatever happens is basically carried out by a merchandiser. So the first step itself is, when the order comes in, one has to know, the merchandiser has to know, कि the raw materials has to be bought from the market, it has to be sourced properly, and it is important to know what to buy. Like, you must know which are the raw materials that are required for that particular product or the commodity. The second one is how much to buy. You, as I mentioned earlier, that there's always a buffer quantity, an extra quantity, so that just in case agar koi pieces reject hote hain, ya the samples are not very good, so that can cover that buffer quantity. But a minimum quantity has to be there. So how much to buy is very important, and then from where and whom to buy. So sourcing may, the main purpose of sourcing, apart from knowing the rate and quality, the price and quality, it's also it also gives a very clear picture of where that product can be sourced from, can be kind of obtained from, and who is going to provide that product. For example, if I go to maybe a seller who is A, and the quality is very good, but the price is also very high for obvious reasons, since the quality is good, and I am not very comfortable with that price. So I will go to seller B or C maybe, and I'll look for other better options. Ki maybe I can slightly compromise on the quality, but then according to my supplier, or the order where I have received, the place where I've received the order from, I can't afford to spend so much. So where and whom is also very important. Now, if you see this is the distribution channel of products or raw materials. So what happens is, how is it basically distributed? There are three ways where how it can be done. First is from producer to consumer directly. So selling directly to the consumers. This happens, for example, or especially with low businesses, small scale businesses, startups and all. So I am making, some tailored tops and kurtas at my home, and I'm just selling it to my friends and neighbors and family around me. So that's something that, as a seller, I'm selling it directly to the consumer. So that's from seller, producer to consumer. Producer to retailer, and then consumer. Selling through retailers. So what happens is, producer, they are producing something in bulk quantity, and they can't actually directly reach to the consumer because of the because of many other issues. So what they do is, they give it to the retailers, and retailers, they further sell it to the consumers, taking their profit margin. And the last one is selling through wholesalers. Now, this is something that I've already shown you in the first class, I remember, day before yesterday. So, producer will sell it to wholesaler in huge amounts with, thousands of quantities. Wholesaler will further split it. And sell it in, lower quantities to the retailer, lots of retailers in fact, and then again there will be a profit margin, and the retailer will further sell it single pieces or maybe two, three pieces according to the consumer demands. A consumer, when the consumer goes to the retailer, they can ask for the single piece also and they can ask for 100 pieces also. But when a consumer directly goes to the wholesaler, they can't ask for single piece because there is always a minimum order that the wholesaler will put forward to the consumer or the customer. So again, the retailer will give it to the consumer, and again there is a profit margin. So what happens is when the product comes from producer directly to the consumer, the profit margin is less. So the price at which the consumer gets that product from the producer is also less. For example, producer ने एक product बनाया for 10 rupees, he will give it to the consumer for maybe 50 rupees. यहाँ पे क्या होगा, producer, since the retailer will take its profit margin, the producer might sell it for 50 and then the retailer will sell it for 100. Now, when the wholesaler is run, the more number of people, the more number of in between people are involved or the agencies are involved, the more profit margin will split and the higher the end price would be. So the producer, he will sell it to the wholesaler maybe for 50, wholesaler to retailer maybe for 100, and when the retailer gives it to the consumer, probably they will charge 500. So the whole price here, earlier you were getting 50 ka product for 100, but here you are getting 50 ka product for 500. So this chain thing actually increases the price. But this is how the distribution channel works basically, because every producer can't go to a single, a consumer or customer and sell his or her own products. Now there are certain major roles and response, and once again, I'm just letting you know that this is a kind of short answer type question. So remember, if in case this question comes in the exam, you have to draw this chart. Okay, without this, if you just write it, it's not going to help. So there are certain major roles and responsibilities of an apparel merchandiser, which a merchandiser must have. I mean, it's kind of very important to have these qualities. Identifying the shifts in taste and preferences of the target market. We have already talked about positioning and targeting and the people and the consumers, customers who are buying the product. So one has to know how their preferences, how the customers are changing, how their preferences are changing, how their choices are changing, how the taste is changing. I mean, now people used to say that there is a generation gap when a new generation is born. Basically, now every 5 years पे you can see the generation gap, because the whole choices and preferences are changing of that particular 5 years back के बच्चे या आगे के बच्चे आप देख लो तो. So every single within every single few years actually, these couple of years में all the choices are changing. So the merchandiser has to really be on his or her toes and know how the shift is happening basically when it comes in context of consumers and customers. Ensuring timely line development in accordance with the market needs and company's capacities. Now, this is I'm not sure if you have kind of come across through this term, line development. Line development is something that goes on step by step. As I said, for example, अभी मैंने दिखाया आपको कि a product can go from directly from producer to the consumer, but there is another process where it goes to the wholesaler and the retailer. So this is kind of a chain that is forming. So it has a set path, and that path has to be followed. The same way, line development is something when the product is produced, it can't just be cut by tailors or pattern makers, master makers, and go directly for stitching or go directly for quality check. There is a proper line development. Every single step is being monitored. So it's the merchandiser's job to actually follow and to keep a track of that line development. Identify market opportunities and demands analysis. How the market is changing, what are the opportunities, what are the अगर आप SWOT analysis के बारे में सुने हो तो strength, weakness, opportunity and threats, SWOT होता है SWOT analysis. So all these things the merchandiser has to know. Identifying prospective vendors for sourcing. मतलब where are you going to buy the fabric? Where, what we had just talked about. So where will you get the trims and apparels or accessories? Who is going to evaluate the parameters? So all these things the merchandiser has to take care of. Preparing a roadmap for timely completion. The product has to be timely completed and delivered to the buyer. Coordination with manufacturing, sales, and marketing for the successful completion of the order. So it's not only about that we got the order, the factory got the order, and वो अपने अंदर ही बिल्कुल kind of constant हो गए और फिर order deliver कर देते हैं. They have to be in continuous touch with the manufacturer also, or the sales team, or the marketing team, or the logistic team. So whatever that is, whatever is falling in that line development basically. So that coordination part also goes to the merchandiser. Ensuring timely delivery of the consignment. Of course, the delivery has to be delivered on time to the buyer. Now, skill set for merchandising. एक ये आप देखिए, these are the basic qualities. The merchandiser has to be creative, very creative in fact. Analytical होना चाहिए. जो भी problems या opportunities आ रही हैं, the merchandiser has to analyze the problems. One doesn't have to panic कि यार ये तो produce हो ही नहीं रहा है, मेरा bulk production नहीं होता. How am I going to deliver the product? So the merchandiser has to be very calm and very analytical about all the positives as well as the negatives. Verbal communication should have, it should be better. The merchandiser has to think positively, has to be, expressive and creative about everything. Vocal hona padega, verbal hona padega, has to have a good communication skill. Intuitive hona padega. The merchandiser has to know it. He or she has to be curious about it. Then there are certain other skills also that has to be present in a merchandise. Since the topic itself is all the unit whole, the all unit is about skill set of the merchandiser. So we are repeatedly talking about that part only. So fabric knowledge one has to know. I mean, you go to the market and a seller tells you this is a silk sari for 10,000. You just, wow, this is a lovely silk sari, and you just buy and get it for your mom. Mom, I got a new silk sari for you for 10,000. And your mom actually tells you, Ade beta, this is like, kind of a polyester or a rayon sari. So, which comes maybe for 700-800. So, without the knowledge of the fabric, it's actually difficult to be in this business basically, or be a student or a teacher or whatever of when it's concerned with clothing and textiles. So fabric knowledge is very important. Understanding of product development process, how the whole process is developed, product is developed, and before the production of the product actually, one of the terms that you all must have heard about is fashion forecasting. What is fashion forecasting? Fashion forecasting is something that फोकास्ट मतलब आपको प्रेडिक्ट करना पड़ेगा व्हाट इज द फ्यूचर ऑफ फैशन. सो इफ एनी वन ऑफ यू फॉलोज दिस फैशन इंडस्ट्री, यू मस्ट हैव सीन कि एवरी प्रीवियस ईयर लाइक 24 का समर स्प्रिंग सीजन ऑलरेडी रैम पे आ चुका है. ऑल द क्लोथिंग एंड न्यू collection from many designers, many foreign and Indian designers, it has already come. Winter collection, many designers are there who are working actually 1 year in advance, but there are designers who actually work 2 years in advance. So that is the fashion forecasting. On the basis of the forecasting, they actually do this shows and they present their collection. So they have to kind of predict what might come in future, and which are the colors that the consumers will like, which are the silhouettes that they will like, which are the patterns and shapes and garments that they might like. Maybe next year sari won't be in fashion, something else will. Maybe they might predict that next year sport shoes won't be in fashion, heels would be. So all this forecasting has to be done by the designers, and also the merchandiser has to know, because he's the one who is taking care of all the production process. Design development जानना है कैसे design develop होती है. Understanding product costing and pricing. Unless you know what is the cost and how the pricing is done, it's very difficult to move forward, because anyone will make you dumb actually. Understanding of shipping documentation and payment terms, again where finance is involved, taxes are involved. Knowing what is written in that document with before kind of forwarding it or signing it further. Having a thorough knowledge about the documentation is also very important. Negotiating with the vendors, liaison with the buyers, decision making abilities. One has to be kind of decisive कि कोई problem आई है, but I have to take a decision. I can't be like ये भी कर सकते हैं वो भी कर सकते हैं. That's not acceptable here. And then analytical abilities. And all these points are further explained here. So as I said, ki classification, I mean knowledge of fabrics for the merchandisers mein, on the basis of many different things, the fabrics are kind of recognized or identified. Fabrics based on construction, woven fabrics. Woven fabrics क्या होते हैं जो कि अभी हम regular basis पे पहनते हैं cotton के, which is actually woven on looms and it has warp and weft threads. तो जो vertically जाता है उसे हम warp बोलते हैं और जो horizontally जाता है उसे हम weft थ्रेफ्ट बोलते हैं. Another process of making fabric is your knitted, जिससे कि आपके woolen garments या t-shirts या hosiery fabrics ये सारे knitted में आते हैं, jerseys and all. Lots of properties are there. This table is actually very important, I would say. If I ask you an exam, maybe I might ask you an exam. In fact, I'll say, put it this way, that mention 10 different types of fibers or fabrics and write their properties. You please don't write it in a paragraph form. You hardly, अगर 5 मार्क्स का क्वेश्चन होगा ना, मैं आपको 2 नंबर दूंगी उसमें, या जो भी academic counselor होगा basically. So you have to put it in a table form. So you have to know the commercial name. Brocade क्या होता है? Brocade is the type of the fabric. So, but actually, just a second. If you all can see the camera, matlab right now, the dupatta that I'm putting, this is actually brocade. This is Banasi brocade. Now, Banasi brocade, it's done on silk also and cotton also. The dupatta that I have taken right now is actually cotton based, but brocade generally जो traditionally होते हैं, brocade is always for silk. सो द वीव जो जिस तरह का वीव होता है वो जकार्ड वीव होता है. कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स, दे आर कंपैरेटिवली हेवी, दे आर नॉट वेरी लाइट वेट बिकॉज दे आर हेवीली वोवन. तो उसमें जो डिजाइन होती है ना वो प्रिंट की हुई नहीं होती है. प्रिंट में क्या होता है कि सम डाई और पिगमेंट विल बी देयर एंड यू जस्ट पुट इट ऑन द फैब्रिक, सो इट्स वेरी लाइट वेट. सिंस ब्रोकेड में, वीविंग में, देयर आर मेनी डिफरेंट फाइबर्स एंड yarns that are being woven into the fabric, so the fabric becomes comparatively heavier. So they are heavy fabrics, design in relief hota hai, resembles embroidered material. It actually looks like it's an embroidery, but it actually is a weaving. And then uses में क्या होता है? Upholsteries में use होता है, draperies में, costumes में, draping में, upscale garments में, all these things. So when and if I ask this question in an exam, कि maybe you can mention 10 different types of fabrics that are used for apparels and home furnishings, you have to put it in the form of a table. And there are lot many fabrics here that we have put, almost 27. So I'm sure at least 10 you can remember. Okay, go through this. This is very easy. Isko ratta marne ki zarurat nahi hai. You can just understand it and you'll kind of get the whole essence of the table. Understanding of product development, the role of fashion forecasting. So I already told you that for fashion forecasting is the one of the first activities that happen whenever their design is being construed. So forecasting is the activity of anticipating or predicting what will happen in the future. So this is the definition here. It plays a major role in the product development process because I tell you, one of you, that maybe for 2025 winter collection, you design me some garments. Now you cannot just make 10 different types of sweaters and overcoats and come to me and say these are the designs. You have to know what is going to be in fashion in 25. You have to predict that, and on what basis. हम तो कोई साधु और प्रेडिक्टर नहीं है ना कि घर पे बैठ के सोच लें कि हमें ये कलर होगा और ये डिजाइन होगी. So what do you have to do for that prediction, for that forecasting? You have to do sourcing of materials. You have to go out in the market and look for what's in trend, what might be in trend. You have to follow designers. You have to see what they are working on, how they are moving forward for next year collection. Lots of various ways are there. So product development का जो सबसे one of the सबसे important and initial steps होता है वो होता है fashion forecasting का, है ना, to predict what's going to be in future, to predict what's going to be in trend, what's going to be in style in future. So all these things have to be predicted. Overall trend forecasting जब हम करते हैं, what is the meaning of trend basically? A trend is a general direction in which something is moving. हम एक बहुत ही layman language में every day we talk to our friends, family, relatives, or we just go. One of my friends says, "Wow, AB, you are looking very pretty today," and I'm like, "Yeah, I got this in from H&M. This is in trend." We always say that this is my style, but do we actually understand the meaning of what is style, what is my style, what is a trend? So trend is a general direction in which something is moving. Matlab the whole population is following something and I am also following that. That is trend. That is happening in the market right now. And everyone is just moving in the same direction. So that's trend. Style is something which is very personal. Style is something which is your individual, subjective hota hai. My style is to wear maybe drape a dupatta in a certain way. Your style might be different. every individual style is different, and one has to have that individuality to stand out in the crowd basically. That is why जब कोई बोलता है कि ये बंदे का स्टाइल या ये ए बी इंसान का स्टाइल बहुत ही अच्छा है, because that person has some individuality, has something, some feature that is separating him or her from someone else. So overall trend forecasting is something that the merchandiser has to do. Now, this is important and interesting. A key question still remains unanswered. Where do trends come from? So, where do trends come from? It may be generalized that a trend emerges from the following. Where does the trend comes from? It comes from the society. It may come from culture. It may come from designers. It may come from raw material vendors. It may come from publicity. It may come from consumer behavior. Society, because there are lots of designers, there are lots of street vendors, there are lots of सड़क वाली चीजें जो 150 rupees में मिलती हैं, but that can also set a trend. So trend might come from the society, it might come from culture. We as Indians, we prefer wearing traditional clothing like sari or suits, or now we have moved on to Western culture also. So we do wear jeans or skirts or dresses and all. So the trend might, we might adopt things, we do adopt things from somewhere, and that comes from the culture of that particular place. Designers, lots of designers, they are show, Lakme fashion week hota hai, ye fashion week hota hai, Paris fashion week hota hai, Milan, New York, mid gala is happening, Oscars are there, and I really don't know how many of you follow that. I am, being a person from this industry and this subject, I follow all these things. Like, I blindly follow. Whenever Met Gala is there, Oscar is going to happen, I'll be glued in front of my screen from 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. because I just love knowing what's going on in fashion industry right now. So it comes from designers because they are the ones who are a major factor for setting the trend. Then the raw material vendors. Many a times, what happens is you all must be on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever social media that you are handling. Especially on Insta, I would say. I at times when I have time and I just scroll through the reels, I see that people do make their own. They will see Alia Bhatt wearing some kind of Manish Malhotra, maybe 50 lakhs or 10 lakhs ka. Some garment, some lehenga, and they will go to Chandni Chowk and just get the material. So raw material जो होता है, जो vendors देते हैं, उनसे भी कई बार हमें बहुत अच्छे ideas मिल जाते हैं और वो trend setting में help करते हैं. Publicity, of course, you see on TVs, see on social media platforms, you see on hoardings and all outside, and you just follow something and it becomes a trend. Consumer behavior, how consumer behave, that is also one of the trend setters. Now forecasting जो होती है वो बहुत सारी चीजों की होती है, सिर्फ फैशन या क्लोथिंग या अपैरल या गारमेंट की नहीं होती है, बहुत सारी चीजों की होती है. The way we when we are designing a garment has color, a garment has lines, a garment has fabric, a garment has design, a garment has pattern, it has prints, it has trimmings, it has accessories, it has lots of different things. So every single thing is being forecasted by the particular person, by the designer, by the merchandiser keeping a track of it. So there are various types of forecastings. Color forecasting, one has to know what are the different colors that would come. Isme primary, secondary, tertiary colors, all these things you'll read later on. Fabric and trim forecasting, what are the different fabrics that are in the market right now, the trimmings and all. Silhouettes and style, what is the cut. सिलर जो होता है इसे हम कट बोलते हैं, मतलब किस शेप का गारमेंट है. तो ये ए लाइन शेप है, ए लाइन सिलर है उसका, या ग्लास है, या अम्ब्रेला है. ऑल दीज, द कट ऑफ द गारमेंट इज बेसिकली द सिलर ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर गारमेंट. सो सिलर एंड स्टाइल हम फोरकास्ट करते हैं. And then design development, as I said earlier also कि a design has to be made, a pattern sketching करना पड़ता है designs का. अब मैंने बोला ये कुर्ता बना दो, कोई भी कपड़ा उठा के you are just not going to randomly pick a fabric and cut and give it to me. You have to know what is Richa going to like, which are the colors that will suit her, or she prefers, or any one of you basically. So design development के लिए there are certain things that goes behind that. Theme and other considerations, one has to know the theme. Whenever these fashion shows happen, actually any fashion week, there's always a theme behind that. It can be sustainability, it can be traditional, it can be some rajwada kind of theme, anything. You must have seen this ad of Maneval where Virat and Anushka are there, and the ad ka jo name hai, that is Mohe. Mohe, I mean, it's mine. The Hindi meaning of mohe is mine. So that's the theme of that whole line collection actually, and there are many garments in that collection of mohe. So theme, and one has to know the theme and decide upon that, and accordingly think about the color and fabric, so silhouette design and everything else. Now this is how a design is being conceptualized basically. तो design development होता कैसे है? सबसे पहले क्या होता है कि design brief by the buyer. Now for example, if I am giving order to one of you, and so the first thing that you will do is, me being the buyer, me being the purchaser basically, I will tell you what are my expectations from you as a manufacturer, and what am I expecting to be in my garment. So design brief mein दूंगी, redefine brief, that is stating the buyer brief in more specific form. Now I told you design brief mein, the first step I told you, I need a kurta maybe which is till knee length and full sleeves. So that is the design brief. Redefine brief mein, what will I tell you? So this kurta that I need for me, of medium size, and which is going to be till knee length and full sleeves, it should be green in color, it should have a U shape of neckline, it should have a broad cuff, it should have some tassels, maybe it can be tapered below. So these are the redefined brief. एक overall हमने general brief दे दिया design का, अब उसको हमें specify करना है. अब उसके बाद क्या होता है, मार्केट रिसर्च एंड ट्रेंड फोरकास्टिंग होती है. सो द मैन्युफैक्चरर विल गो टू द मार्केट रिसर्च करेगा, ट्रेंड फोरकास्ट करेगा, सब कुछ, एंड देन एक स्टोरी बोर्ड बनता है. स्टोरी बोर्ड इज समथिंग, इट इज लाइक अ कोलाज. ओके, collage of photos, collage of even physical things also. And one has to, the moment I see that storyboard, it has to reflect the design of that particular line or that particular garment or product. So the moment I see that storyboard, I should get to know कि मैंने जो design brief दिया था वो storyboard से perfectly match कर रहा है. तो whatever I have said that now, according to my redefined brief, if I make a storyboard, there will be lots of green color, there will be U shape of necklines, there will be tapered edges, there will be cuffs in that, pictures of cuff. So it will be like a picture, a collage, which will just hit me with an idea, and I'll get to know what the design is actually without even talking to the buyer. So that's a storyboard. डेवलपमेंट ऑफ इनिशियल स्केचेस बनाए जाते हैं, उसे बायर से अप्रूव कराया जाएगा, और फिर उसको नैरो डाउन करके द फाइनल स्केचेस विल बी मेड, एंड देन द रेंडरिंग ऑफ फाइनल स्केच. जो फाइनल स्केचेस होंगे उनको रेंडर किया जाएगा. रेंडर मतलब जो नॉर्मल स्केचिंग होती है, द फर्स्ट स्टेप ऑफ दिस स्केचिंग, व्हाट हैपेंस देयर इज, इट्स जस्ट एन आउटलाइन ऑफ गारमेंट्स एंड or maybe coloring and all. Rendering में क्या होता है? Now in redefined brief, I told you I need 10 kurtas, 5 of silk and 5 of linen. So silk का जो fabric होता है, अगर आप silk और linen को identify कर सकते हैं, you will see there is lot of difference. Silk is very shiny, very smooth, very soft, very flowy, drapeable होता है, while linen on the other hand is rough, it has a texture, it doesn't have shine, it doesn't have luster, it can be lightweight, it can be heavyweight depending on the type of fabric. So lots of differences are there. What happens in rendering is, the moment you see that photo, you'll be able to make out this is silk. So in that, not photo actually, the sketch, sorry, the sketch, the moment you see that sketch, you should be able to make out this is silk and this is linen, because हम sketching ऐसा करेंगे, उसका rendering, उसका coloring ऐसा करेंगे that there will be shine on the silk fabric, it will look smooth, it should be drapeable, so that curves and flows should be shown on the sketch. The same way for other fabrics also. So final rendering is done in the last step of the design development process. Understanding product costing, of course, I mean, one has to know, the merchandiser has to know what is the, how to do the costing, what is the how to do the pricing. Now you will include the labor, you will include the fabric charges, the raw material charges of all the accessories and everything, and suddenly you forget to add the time and labor and profit, तो आप तो लॉस में जाओगे फिर. So that is, these are the things that the merchandiser has to know, what are the things that has to be added on top of the raw material charges. Now, understanding of shipping documentation and payment terms. Negotiation with the vendors, one has to negotiate ki, the vendor is saying I need maybe 1 lakh, so you have to know come down to 50,000 or 70,000. So negotiation हम तो मतलब like सड़क का भी अगर कुछ खरीदने जाए स्ट्रीट शॉपिंग के लिए भी तो भी फ्ली मार्केट में भी हम negotiation करते हैं. So these are like lakhs and crores of rupees are being played here. Finance is required. So negotiation is important. Liaison with the buyers is something that the merchandiser needs to be versatile and flexible at the as the job profile includes continuous communication. So when you are talking with the buyer, the merchandiser has to kind of be, if I can use this word, a little manipulative, because all the orders, everything that have been confirmed and they are progressing or any delays. So the merchandiser has to convince the buyer कि चलो थोड़ा delay हो गया है हम better कर देंगे या इतने pieces reject हो गए some pieces are rejected and we'll get it back on track. So things like that. Decision making ability होनी चाहिए. I already said that, and analytical abilities. Traits of a successful merchandiser. If you don't have these traits, probably you can't be a successful merchandiser. Of course, probable word is there. An independent thinker होना चाहिए. Entrepreneur, of course, you have to be an entrepreneur. I mean, you are the merchandiser. You are responsible. That person is responsible for the kind of production and construction of that product. So one has to be an entrepreneur. Think from right from the scratch till the end of the product completion. A good communicator, of course, dedicated professional towards your job. You have to be dedicated. An organized resource person. You must know how the business works and everything. So that's about your skill sets for the of a merchandiser. Then coming to communication skills. Communication skills, since merchandiser is dealing with so many people, hundreds of people and so many businesses, communication skill is very important. Soft skills होना. So communication is something जो कि oh, I am right now communicating with you all of you. So I am the sender and you are the receiver. So whenever a communication happens, there are two factors involved, sender and receiver. So मेरे केस में right now हम जो अभी कर रहे हैं, I'm the sender, you are the receiver. When you will move out of this place and you'll go and meet your friends or colleagues or family, you'll just say, okay, I just had a 1 hour ka counseling of this course, and I'm so tired listening to the faculty, and now I need a cup of coffee or tea or whatever. So then you become the sender and the other person becomes the receiver because you are communicating with someone else. So communication skills बहुत ज़्यादा important होती है. It's a two-way traffic basically. अगर upward जा रहा है तो downward भी जाता है. अगर आप सिर्फ बोलो और सामने वाला सिर्फ सुन रहा है, इसका मतलब कि मैं लेक्चर दे रही हूँ, मैं कम्युनिकेट नहीं कर रही हूँ, which is actually happening right now because none of you ask any question or you communicate or you don't. It's very important for the faculty or the or whoever is saying something in a communication process to get a feedback also. You have to tell, ma'am, you're speaking too fast. I can't even understand what you're saying. Ma'am, you're too slow. Ma'am, you're too, quick. Ma'am, you're something. You have to communicate. So that's communication. What I'm doing right now is actually giving a lecture. Anyway, that's the difference. So basically, it's a two-way traffic, upward and downward. Horizontal bhi hota hai, of course. It is continuous and dynamic. It has to be continuous. I mean, once you stop, the whole communication ka essence khatam ho jayega. Okay, I will answer to all your questions, Abhishek. I will answer to your question and any other after I'm done. Okay. Um, okay. So it has to be continuous and it has to be dynamic. I mean, if you're saying something, the other person has to understand it. If that person says कि मैम 1 घंटे में आपने क्या बकवास किया ना हमें कुछ नहीं समझ में आया, so what's the point of doing it then just stop it. So one has to be continuous, one has to be dynamic, the communication has to be that. It needs proper understanding. If you're not understanding, I mean, what is the point of me blabbering for 1 hour actually? So whatever a person is saying, whatever you are communicating with your parents, with your sister, with your friends, with your family, whatever it is, it has to be, the other person has to understand it. And when the other person speaks, when the receiver becomes the sender, you have to be quiet and you have to understand that. So proper understanding is important. It leads to the achievement of an objective. I am teaching right now, you are able to understand something. So एक ऑब्जेक्टिव फुलफिल हो रहा है बिकॉज मैं आपका काउंसलिंग कर रही हूँ और आपको कुछ पता चल रहा है कि इस कोर्स में क्या है या इस यूनिट में क्या है. प्रोसेस ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन में क्या होता है, द फर्स्ट स्टेप इज आइडिएशन, मतलब एक आइडिया जनरेशन होता है जो कि सेंडर, मैं सोच रही हूँ कि मुझे प्रोसेस ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन के बाद ये सारे पॉइंट्स को बोल के और फिर मुझे सॉफ्ट स्किल्स में जाना है, कंप्यूटर जहाँ पे कि मुझे ज्यादा दिखाना नहीं है, तो मेरे दिमाग में ऑलरेडी दैट आइडिया इज फॉर्मिंग even though I'm speaking right now. So ideation is very important for communication. Encoding, if you are not able to understand, decode, encode what I'm saying, what the sender is actually sending to the receiver is not going to understand anything. So encoding बहुत important होता है. Of course decoding उसके बाद आएगा. Transmission जो मैं अभी कर रही हूँ, I'm actually transmitting something, I'm actually conveying something to you, so that's transmission. Receiving is something that you are doing sitting at your homes or offices. Decoding is, okay, now Dr. Richa said something, I have heard that, and now let me just process the whole thing. This process of processing actually can happen right away. It can happen after 1 hour. It can happen actually when you open your book, you see this page number 197, and then you understand, you realize, अच्छा ideation मतलब ये होता है जो डॉक्टर रिचर ने ये बोला था कि पहले एक आइडिया आना चाहिए जिसको कि हमको put forward करना है into words. So that's your decoding. It can happen at any time. Many of you might be decoding it right away. Many of you will do it after 1 hour. Maybe you'll be tired of working or studying something else, and then suddenly you'll come back to CAPMER and you'll say, "Acha, this was what she had said." And many of you will actually, probably when you will actually open the book and see this page, then it will happen. So it can happen at any stage. Action. Action is something, okay, whatever Dr. Richa said, I have understood it now. Now my action is, let me go through the book. दिसंबर में एग्जाम्स है फर्स्ट सेकंड को, और अब मुझे उसके लिए पढ़ाई करनी है, असाइनमेंट सबमिट करने हैं, कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है उसको मैं अच्छे से ज्यादा अच्छे से पढ़ लेता हूँ या लेती हूँ. सो दैट्स योर एक्शन. ओके, so this is about that: sender, encoding, message, decoding, and receiver, process of communication. The lots of elements of communication here. Context होता है, of course there's always a context. किस चीज पे, किस basis पे आप बात कर रहे हैं. There has to be some topic. So that's your context. Sender, encoder, source of ideas. Of course that's the same thing. Message has to be formed. It has to be given. Medium and channel. The medium that I'm talking, I'm communicating, or I'm lecturing you right now is I'm using the medium is actually English, and the way I'm communicating is through online using internet. Receiver and decoder, of course, the person who has received has to decode, and then the effect and feedback. And then later on, you can say, "Ma'am, this part I didn't understand," or "This is my question. Please, probably repeat it again," or whatever it is. So feedback. ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल कम्युनिकेशन, मॉडल ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन, तो एक सेंडर होता है बड़ा, एक बड़ा रिसीवर होता है. मैसेज, फीडबैक, चैनल्स, मीडियम सब कुछ इंटर कनेक्टेड होते हैं उससे, ठीक है. और जो ये सेंडर और रिसीवर का जो कम्युनिकेशन प्रोसेस होता है, इट इज ऑल डिपेंडेंट ऑन अ बिग कॉन्टेक्स्ट. It is all dependent on an idea, on what you are going to talk. Now, if RC Bangalore doesn't start the, just an example I'm giving, just doesn't start this counseling session, and we don't know what is going to happen. So what will happen? We'll just come, we'll join. So every day, that is why ma'am is coming here. She's letting us know, okay, let's start this session, and we are, kind of following that. I'm starting and you are listening. So that whole idea has to be there behind it. Otherwise, communication it won't be both way, and it will become stagnant actually. Objectives of organizational communication, convey करना होता है direct action के लिए. Try to explain something or justify your actions when your person, some friend is angry with you, your husband or wife is angry, my son is shouting at me, something is happening, he is fighting with me, and I need to justify, why did I say that, why did I do that, why did I actually shouted at you. So all these things are a part of the communication process. Coordinating the activities, it has to be a both way thing. If it's an right now we are coordinating that tomorrow, or maybe on Monday 11 o'clock we'll have this, so this is the coordination. Or just before the counseling session, 15 minutes back or half an hour back, I messaged you in the group ki, join the counseling. So this is something that happens between a number of people, or more than two people, and the coordination happens. Policies and procedures hote hain of an organization. Good communication aims, communication is a tool for developing managerial skills. Of course it is important, otherwise तो हो ही नहीं पाएगा. Scope of organizational communication, read through on your own. This is very important, again very important. I am saying the whole flow chart. Types of communication, what are the different types of communication? On the basis of direction of communication, downward जाता है, upward जाता है, horizontal जाता है. On the basis of method of expression, ओरल और रिटन हो जाता है, जो मैं अभी बोल रही हूँ वो ओरल है, अगर मैं आपको व्हाट्सएप में लिख के भेजती हूँ या मेल करती हूँ वो रिटन हो जाता है। डायरेक्ट और इनडायरेक्ट, मैं अभी आपसे बात कर रही हूँ वो डायरेक्ट है। अगर मैं आपको, आप मेरा ज्ञान दर्शन देखें या आईआरसी देखें तो वो इनडायरेक्ट हो जाता है, बिकॉज आई डिड समथिंग ऑन द टीवी ऑन दूरदर्शन चैनल एंड देन यू वेंट ऑन स्विच्ड ऑन योर टीवी एंड यू सॉ इट, सो दैट्स एन इनडायरेक्ट वे ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन। वर्बल और नॉन वर्बल, बोलना एंड लिखना, oh sorry, and then the organize, depending on organizational structure, it is formal and informal. I mean, right now what we are doing is basically the whole scenario, it's both actually. I would say the whole scenario is very formal because I'm a teacher, you are the learner, you have joined this course and we have to do the counseling. But what happens if you ask a query on WhatsApp and I'm answering to that, it's an informal way of communication. So सबके merits demerits होते हैं, positive negative, go through on your own. And one more thing, as I said, this is very important. When I say this is very important, I'm not only talking about this flow chart. अगर ये मैं आपको 10 या 20 मार्क्स में देती हूँ तो ये ऑफ कोर्स ये फ्लो चार्ट बनाना एंड ईच एंड एवरी वन ऑफ देम को डिस्क्राइब करना इज इम्पोर्टेंट। अगर मैं बोलती हूँ 5 मार्क्स के क्वेश्चन में कि जस्ट डिस्क्राइब द डायरेक्शन ऑफ communication with the help of examples, what you will do, you'll describe the direction of communication downward with merits demerits, upward with merits demerits, and horizontal with merits demerits. So that will be, maybe a short answer type question. So सारी चीजें देख लेना, मेरिट डीमेरिट जो भी है। एंड देन द प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन बैरियर एंड फीडबैक। व्हाट हैपेंस इज, ऑफ कोर्स देयर आर मेनी प्रिंसिपल्स होते हैं, हर चीज का एक बेसिस होता है। सो जो कम्युनिकेशन के प्रिंसिपल्स होते हैं, इट शुड बी क्लियर। इफ आई एम नॉट क्लियर विथ व्हाट आई एम सेइंग, यू वोंट बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड। देयर शुड बी अ कर्टेसी व्हेन मैम इज सेइंग, when I am saying कि screen दिख रहा है, screen share हो रहा है, one of you can actually out of courtesy actually just unmute and say yes हो रहा है. So I also get to know, because what is happening on your screen is something that is beyond my understanding. So that should be there. Correctness, ma'am you use the wrong word, ma'am आपने ये चीज भूल गए आप बोलना ऊपर. So there is no harm in correcting. We are also human beings, we are not perfect. And if you ask me a question today and प्रोबेबली इट्स हाईली पॉसिबल पूरी दुनिया में टेक्सटाइल एंड क्लोथिंग में क्या हो रहा है वो मुझे नहीं पता है। सो अगर आप ऐसा कोई क्वेश्चन पूछते हो जो मुझे नहीं पता है, आई विल लेट यू नो, आई विल टेल यू दैट ओके दिस इज समथिंग दैट प्रोबेबली एज ऑफ नाउ आई एम नॉट अवेयर ऑफ, but I will check it and I'll let you know. You can always correct me. Concreteness should be there, heaviness, you should have that thing of communication. Completeness, the communication should be complete. If I just if I just tell you principles of communication, ये इस यूनिट में आता है, communication skills है यूनिट नंबर 13, go through on your own. That is not completeness. At least I have to kind of brush up, superficially go to let you know what is happening in this unit. Consciousness, of course it's there, considerate होना पड़ेगा, clarity होनी चाहिए, ये सारी चीजें हैं आपके 1 2 3 4 7 principles of communication. Please ये small answer के लिए important है. Barriers to communication, lots of barriers are there. External में आते हैं semantic, emotional or psychological, and cultural. Personal में intra and interpersonal, and then organizational. Semantic होता है that denotes the study of meaning of words, symbols, and things like that. So it's, as I just said, about knowledge or about some context. The same thing happens with communication also. Not every word or meaning has to be known. So there is a meaning to a word, there is some sign, some symbol. Sometimes आप सिर्फ लोगो देख के चीजें पहचान जाते हो, but these comes under certain barriers. अगर मैं आपको सिर्फ एक Amazon का लोगो दिखाऊं, जैसे कि Amazon नहीं लिखा हो, सिर्फ एक स्माइलिंग फेस हो, probably half of you, या Puma का मैं एक आपको ये टाइगर, that whatever that is creation वो मैं दिखा दूं, many people won't know that. So many other barriers are there, emotional and psychological, cultural barriers हो सकते हैं. Since we are talking about communication, how many there might be someone from Delhi, there might be someone from South, there might be someone from Northeast, and it's highly possible that when I'm saying something in Hindi, it won't be construed by the person who is sitting in South, or if I say something in maybe some other language, any other. So cultural barriers are always there. Personal barriers हो सकते हैं, many other, I'm not feeling well, I can't teach you today, that's a personal barrier. Many other different kinds of personal barriers. Okay, so all these are there, you just read it on your own, I'm sure you'll understand. Feedback देना बहुत important होता है, चाहे किसी भी चीज का हो. As a learner, you can give a feedback to your faculty that whatever feedback. As a faculty, I can give the feedback for you all. No, all the 33 students are not turning up, no one is speaking in the class, no one is communicating, so these are the feedbacks that I can give at the end of the session. So feedback is very important. Okay, so that's about your feedback. Coming to written communication, एज आई सेड कि देयर आर डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ रिटन कम्युनिकेशन. अगर हम ईमेल कर रहे हैं, व्हाट्सएप कर रहे हैं, हम आपको लेटर या नोट दे रहे हैं, ऑल दोज आर रिटन कम्युनिकेशंस. देयर आर टिप्स फॉर गुड राइटिंग स्किल्स. राइट शॉर्ट सेंटेंसेस अबाउट 17 to 20 वर्ड्स. बहुत लंबा सेंटेंसेस, 5-10 लाइन्स का एक सेंटेंस हमें नहीं करना है. प्रेफर शॉर्ट एंड फेमिलियर वर्ड्स. बहुत डिफिकल्ट वर्ड्स, अनफेमिलियर वर्ड्स, it's always better not to use that. Select words with appropriate strength. Remove extra words and avoid repetition. Relate ideas. All these things for, it's very simple. You can just kind of go through on your own. The process of writing. How do you? It begins with planning. That objective होता है. उसे हम एक idea को हम उसमें बदलते हैं, and then information gather करते हैं. We analyze, organize it, and then we write the first draft. If we think that this is perfect or there are some changes required and everything is done, then rewriting and then the proofreading happens. Emails, all these things are advantages of email. Structure of an email, you can do CC, you can do BCC, blind carbon copy, जहाँ पे कि किसी को पता नहीं चलता है कि मैंने ये मेल किसी और को भी किया है. Subject message attachments has to be there. All these things, as I said, this block itself is all about telephonic etiquettes. आप किसी को call करते हो, um, I'm just saying this. Okay, so oral communication, I'll tell you this maybe later on. Oral communication, there's a way of talking. See, there are lots of learners here in this course. Someone might be elder to me, someone might be, younger to me. And there's a way of asking them, calling them. Yesterday, someone messaged me saying, Richa. Yes, my name is Richa, but please do remember that you are talking to a faculty. If you are much more elder to me, it's okay if you don't want to call me ma'am. It's understood. I can totally get it. Maybe slight ego या जो भी आ सकता है. But use the word Dr. Richa. I'm not your friend. I'm not here to kind of your family. So there's a way of talking. So whenever you do oral communication or written communications, these things are very important. And let me tell you, these things can create problem if you are not being formal or maintaining that decorum with your with the people around you. Of course, listening skills होते हैं. There might be lots of listening, problem skills, effective skills, whatever it is. Telephonic etiquettes जानना जरूरी है. Non-verbal communication, of course, many there. You can, I am not liking you, I won't even look at you, or I won't even turn this thing. So I am showing my disliking towards you with using my body language. और मुझे किसी का कुछ नहीं पसंद है, I'm just showing a frown or making some face, raised eyebrows. All these are non-verbal communication, but हम body language से दे देते हैं अपने families को, friends को, or things like that. Appearance से हम देते हैं. If I'm angry with a friend or with a family member, I'm not going to talk to him or her. So that's a silent treatment. टाइम लेते हैं, स्पेस हम डिस्टेंस बना देते हैं families में, friends में, whatever it is. So all these are types of non-verbal communications. Then there are skills. We have to have skills. If I don't have proper communication skill in English, I won't be able to sit here and teach you today or counsel you today. I am not using much of Hindi because I'm really not sure how much of you are comfortable with Hindi. So English probably everyone will understand. So good communication skills, the way you present yourself, the way you talk, the kind of words that you are using, everything is very important. And what I'm doing right now is actually public speaking. So all these things, all these factors are there. Objective of public speaking जो कि important होता है. If I don't know my topic, if I don't know what goes in CAPMER, I won't be able to respond to your questions, or I won't be even able to teach you. I mean, how do I know कि page 2021 से to 441 तक नीचे क्या है? So I have to know the content. And right now, if you ask me of certificate, both the courses 1 and 2, all the single units, each and every single page मुझे रट्टा है, because I have made this, this SLM, and I know what's there. So I have to know, the communicator has to know the topic, the content, whatever is there. So, and if you don't know, just research it. There's no harm in reading something or studying something. Organize the data, interesting hona chahiye, catchy hona chahiye. If there are no figures, I tell you ki, this is the process, and I don't show you a flow chart or maybe a picture, so it will be difficult. Like I just explained you the difference between silk and linen, but I'm really not sure how many of you could understand. अभी मैं यहाँ पे गूगल खोलूँ और मैं आपको सिल्क और लिनन का फोटो दिखा दूँ, आपको समझ में आ जाएगा कि क्या डिफरेंस होता है. सो जो विजुअल इफेक्ट्स होते हैं ना, वो बहुत ज्यादा कैची होते हैं. सो कैची चीजें यूज करना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है. प्रेजेंटेशन स्किल्स होना चाहिए, रिपोर्ट्स की राइटिंग स्किल्स होनी चाहिए, हाउ टू कंडक्ट अ मीटिंग वन शुड नो, conclusion. And then after this, guys, after this unit, it's all about computers. Okay, कीबोर्ड क्या है, ईमेल कैसे यूज करते हैं, पावर पॉइंट कैसे बनाना है, मेमोरी क्या होती है, all these things. You can just go through on your own. Maximum in exam, if the question paper, whoever sets the question paper, that person may ask you how to send an email, how to make a PowerPoint presentation. So just, it's all these units are not very, what to say, hardcore important, seriously, critically important नहीं है exam के लिए. But हाँ, आप लोग एक बार go through जरूर कर लेना. CD, DVD कैसे use करते हैं, Word का basic कैसे होता है. You start on click, all programs, Microsoft Office, Microsoft Word, and then 2000 version, and then double click. So I don't think I need to tell you all these things. You all are much more advanced than me, I'm sure about it. So just go through this, and till unit 19, it's all about computers, computers, computers. Okay. So I will, गूगल शीट कैसे यूज करना है, गूगल मेल कैसे भेजना है, इट्स ऑल अबाउट दैट. एंड द नेक्स्ट important topic that we'll be talking about is block 5, which talks about all the entrepreneurs. You want to become an entrepreneur, what are the skills that one should have, what are the qualities that an entrepreneur should have. So all these things are there. So I'll end the topic, today's session here. And if anyone has any doubt, okay, Abhishek, ma'am, if we are working for the manufacturing house, do we have that much time to make a theme-based design, because it was a time consuming process? Abhishek, if you are working for a manufacturing house, two things might happen. Okay, first of all, the buyer, whoever is giving you the order, will actually tell you what are their demands. So when they tell you what are we looking for, you don't have to make the storyboard, you don't have to make the mood board, you don't have to actually kind of make the whole design process, because it will be provided to you by the buyer or the manufacturer or the sorry, by the exporter. Okay, but only in case if you want to become an entrepreneur, I am good at designing and I want to open my own boutique or a fashion house or a fashion studio, then I have to have those skills. So working for the manufacturing house, it's not important, but it might be required. Why? Because sometimes what happens is sometimes the buyers also, they are confused. Okay, I have worked in industry, I have worked for almost 2 years in industry after my masters. And sometimes the buyers are very confused, they are very confused. So they will come with an idea कि listen Richa, this is what I'm looking for, but मुझे specifications उसके नहीं पता है. I don't know what should be the, so this should be the color, this men's clothing चाहिए मुझे, men's clothing में maybe shirt या t-shirt चाहिए, या women clothing में मुझे maybe कुर्ता या top चाहिए, but I'm not sure about the color, I'm not sure what design is in trend these days, what is the forecasting. So sometimes the buyer itself, they don't know actually. I mean, export ke buyers ka, it's absolutely different, but I'm talking about, very frankly, I'm talking about Indian buyers. Sometimes they are confused, so they don't know, and then you give them some suggestion ki maybe this green color won't look that good, maybe if you go for red or yellow it will look better. And then they actually listen to you, because they know that behind their back there is no merchandiser or designer sitting who is going to actually give you all these suggestions about the design process. So they don't know what has to be done. So as a merchandiser, or if you are working in the manufacturing unit, you might have to come up with ideas. So when you don't know, if you don't know what is the design process, if you don't know how the forecasting is done, if you don't know how the sourcing and all these things are done, you won't be able to actually give your own ideas. You will be as blank, as confused as the buyer itself. So yes, sometimes it's not a very what to say, die hard, मतलब उसके बिना नहीं चलेगा ऐसा feature नहीं है, but it's always a good quality of a merchandiser or anyone who is working in the manufacturing or the export unit to have these qualities. So yeah, I mean, It's an added benefit. It's a cherry on the cake. So if you have it, it's very good. It is time consuming. It is definitely time consuming. But remember, whatever you learn, when I was making this SLM, not in this course, जब हम second course में जाएंगे, I guess हाँ second course में है, there are elements and principles of design जहाँ पे कि बहुत designing की जरूरत होती है. And I learned Photoshop and Corel Draw way back in 2007-8 when I did my MSc. So I had just forgotten. So when I had to make all those designs, I was unable to do it. So I joined an online course on Photoshop and Corel Draw for 2 months. I learned the Photoshop, and then that's how in course two you will see all those designs that I have put there. I'll also mention this when I go through those units. So it's always even though it's time consuming, it's always an added benefit to you. Okay, I hope I have answered your question, Abhishek. Roshni is asking, can you please share some producers' name who sell directly to consumers, specifically women's clothing? Producers name who sell directly to consumers, Roshni, I'm sorry, I can't do that because they are, as I said earlier, they are the small startups, okay, or they are the entrepreneurs who are doing, not the big industries. They will never do that because they don't. It's not that they don't have the resource or they don't know how to do that. They have to follow the supply chain management process. They have to go to the wholesaler. The wholesaler will go to the retailer, and they will go to the shops or the consumers. They have to follow. If you say Nike brand को कि Nike तुम आके मुझे एक जूते दे के जाओ, वो क्या देगा आपको? कभी नहीं देगा. So producer जब directly बेचता है, उसमें कभी भी big industries involved नहीं होती हैं. It's always the startups. Now one or two examples probably I can give you. I just remember talking to you. There is a brand called Cornucopia. Please copy it down. CORNUCOPIA. Okay, it's a Gurgaon based. Two sisters, they have started this brand because I got one quilt made out of my son's old clothes. I got it converted into a quilt, and they did it for me. So I remember. So they are the producers. They have lots of जो औरतें घर पे होती हैं, हाउस वाइफ्स, होम मेकर्स होती हैं, लो इनकम ग्रुप की, काम नहीं करती हैं, उन्होंने उन औरतों को लिया है और उनसे वो सोइंग और क्विल्टिंग और स्टिचिंग ये सारी चीजें कराते हैं और पुरानी चीजों को वो एक नया फॉर्म और शेप देते हैं. तो जैसे कि मैंने पुराने रोम्पर्स और टी शर्ट्स और काफी सारी चीजें उन्हें भेजी थी कुरियर करके when I was in Mumbai, and they actually converted into a lovely and pretty quilt. So Cornucopia नाम है उसका, मैं WhatsApp ग्रुप में भी डाल दूंगी. So that's a producer who is directly selling to the consumer. So I was the customer, I was the consumer, Cornucopia was the producer. So they produced something for me and they couriered it to me, and I paid the price, I mean the cost of that. So that's an example. But it never happens in big brands. It's not possible. They have to follow the supply chain process. It is impossible. Okay, thank you for that name. Great idea by the ladies. Yeah, great idea. And there are many such ladies who do that actually. I'll share more names. Two of my friends are actually doing that. One is in Hyderabad and one is in Bangalore. So I will actually ask the name of them. They might be on my Facebook and Insta. I'll check their names and I'll share it on the WhatsApp group. Any further questions? Anyone? So ma'am is so good that she is so good at teaching that everyone is understanding everything. All you people are so intelligent that सबको सब कुछ समझ में आ रहा है ना? या तो किसी को कुछ नहीं समझ में आ रहा है. Either way, बता देना, feedback दे देना, okay? It's 12. If there is no other question, probably we can end the session. Uh, Once again. Your sessions are so good. Won't you mind to give us recordings to revise? Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the session. Okay. Thank you so much, Benila. Thank you so much. I am really glad that you are liking the session. The thing is, Hema ma'am
Yes,
is there
madam,
from
I'm
RC
here.
Bangalore. I can ask, yeah. Ma'am, one of the student is asking if they can have the recording of the
Yes,
counseling. Is
madam.
it
We will
possible?
send them the playlist once all the classes are done. We will send the playlist,
Great.
madam. Yeah.
Sure. So, Benila, you have heard Hema ma'am, and she will send all of you. In fact, not only Benila, she'll share all the, sessions with you all once everything is over. So, I think the last date is on 17th. because I have lots of meetings and everything in between, so I have scheduled the session accordingly. And one thing I want to tell you, on 10th of October, okay, that's why 10th पे मैंने काउंसलिंग नहीं रखी है. 10th of October we are going to have, so there is, this is CAPMER, Certificate in Apparel Merchandising. We have launched this July 2023, जिसमें आप लोगों ने ये एडमिशन लिया है, बट ये कैपमल कोर्स लास्ट ईयर लॉन्च हो गया था. जुलाई 2023 में वी हैव लॉन्च्ड अ न्यू कोर्स दैट इज डैकमर, सी है, ठीक है. सो इट्स डिप्लोमा इन अपैरल मर्चेंडाइजिंग. इंडक्शन में आई हैड ऑलरेडी टॉक्ड अबाउट दिस, बट आई एम जस्ट रिपीटिंग इट. सो वन इज डैकमर ODL and one is DAPMER, which we have launched in collaboration of with NSTC, and I am the program coordinator. If you have any doubt, you can further ask me. So this, once you complete the certificate course, you can directly join the diploma, and you don't have to study these two courses because you have already completed it in, you know, certificate. So you can actually join that diploma course. Why I'm telling you right now is because on 10th October we are having a Gyan Darshan session with our VC, PVC sir, to PVC, and the CEO of the NSTC. So they will actually give you a very clear, we will be there but we will be behind the cameras, but they will give you a very clear picture of what the program is, why NSTC has collaborated with this, and we will be sharing with all the RCs as well. They will share with you. But since whoever is here, 10, 15 of you, you can actually log on to YouTube, EMPC YouTube, or Facebook Live, or wherever social media आप follow करते हो. इग्नू का ट्विटर पे लिंक शेयर किया जाएगा, SOC का फॉलो करो. अदरवाइज ज्ञान दर्शन टीवी पे आता है 10th October 3 p.m. okay, 3 to 4 p.m. Please do watch that program, and it will I think many of you will be actually interested in that program. So after, if you feel interested, you can actually finish this and join that program in the December session, and you can start with the third course. You don't have to, you know, study again these two courses, because it's like it just pass on, credit pass हो जाता है इसका. So just an added information I wanted to give you. Roshni, thank you. Okay, thank you, Roshni. Yeah, sure, we can bind it up. Thanks for this awesome session. Thank you, Dhruv. Thank you, ma'am. There will be questions from software. Abhishek, I can't tell you if there will be questions from this unit or that unit or not. लेकिन मैं इतना जरूर कर रही हूँ कि जब भी कोई इंपॉर्टेंट चीज आ रही है, शॉर्ट आंसर, लॉन्ग आंसर, which very frankly I'm not supposed to do that, but I am doing it. So उतना ध्यान में रखो. उसके बाद you have to study the whole course. कहाँ से आएगा, कहाँ से नहीं आएगा, वो मैं आपको नहीं बता सकती हूँ, because very frankly neither the question papers are set by us nor the question answers are checked by us. I am the program coordinator. I am here to teach you. I'm here to guide you. I'm here to help you. There are counselors. We are not the ones who will set the paper. We are not the ones who will check the papers. Not even your assignment, let me tell you. Okay. So I can't tell you. I don't have that info. Okay. Very informative session. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rajuji. Thank you. Any other question? And otherwise, we'll meet on Monday now. Okay, so I think we can end the session here, Mama.
Yes, madam. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye bye. Have a nice day, all of you.